Hi, and welcome back to the Seven Thunders video series. We are studying the vision of the little scroll of seven thunders in Revelation 10 because the clock and the key have been sealed within this scroll for 2,000 years, awaiting the time when the bride of Christ arrives at her midnight hour in age-to-age timekeeping, and that time is now. Now, the visions of Revelation 10 and 11 fall between the sound of the sixth trumpet and the seventh trumpet in the book of Revelation. But it would be helpful if we could consider Revelation 10 and 11 to be one complete vision, not two separate visions, but one complete vision that interrupts the sounding of the seventh trumpet to declare a grand intervention. The little scroll is a grand intervention. It's as if the risen Christ is saying to John of Patmos, wait. Before we hear the seventh trumpet, there's something really important that you need to see and hear and understand. So let's look at this little scroll that lay open in the hand of the mighty angel. It's a scroll that has been previously unsealed. And who is it in Scripture that had a vision of a scroll that was unsealed and needed to be eaten? Well, it was the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel was presented with a sealed scroll that was then opened by God's Spirit during his vision. Now, Ezekiel's scroll, as we like to call it, contained words of mourning, lamentation, and woe written on both sides. God's Spirit begged Ezekiel to go to his people in Babylonian exile, and speak to his people on behalf of what? On behalf of God's grieving heart. God wanted Ezekiel to tell them, whether they listen or they fail to listen, God wanted them to know that my heart, God's heart, is breaking because no one is hearing God's voice. God's saying to Ezekiel, no one is listening for my voice. So Ezekiel's vision of a scroll was seen that the importance here is that Ezekiel's vision immediately followed his vision of living creatures, wheels, and a human-like figure. Now remember, we just met the mighty angel. In Ezekiel's vision, it was a human-like figure with fiery loins, surrounded by the brilliance of a rainbow on a cloudy day. Let's make the connections. Fire, brilliant light, rainbow, clouds. The human-like figure in Ezekiel's vision was the Logos, who was in the beginning with God, the one who appeared in John's vision as the mighty angel with the little scroll. So if you're connecting the dots, we've now linked the vision of Revelation 10 with the story of creation in Genesis 1, as well as Ezekiel's vision of wheels and a scroll. In other words, the scroll that was opened in Ezekiel, chapters 2 and 3, were never closed or sealed. God continued to mourn, lament, and feel woeful until John of Patmos saw the same scroll laying open in the hand of the mighty angel of Revelation 10. Does the open scroll indicate that God's heart continues to grieve? And if we heard what the seven thunders said, would we hear God's grieving heart? Let's move on. Then the angel gave a loud shout, like the roar of a lion, shouting as if demanding to be heard throughout his kingdom, which is the whole of creation. And when he shouted, the seven thunders sounded. It's God's native tongue speaking through the images of creation that are shouting, demanding to be heard. And the first thing John thinks to do is write down everything that the seven thunders said. And the risen Christ told John because the risen Christ told John to write down everything that he saw and send it to the seven churches. But John was not allowed to do that. A voice from heaven stops him saying, seal up what the seven thunders have said and do not write it down. Now, because the seven thunders were sealed within this little scroll, God's mourning, lamentation, and woeful heart continued in a state of grief from the time of Ezekiel to this day, this hour. But the seven thunders will not express grief. The seven thunders will express light and life and love. Think about it. Next up, it's thunders, plural. Thanks for listening.